Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about press releases. Most press releases fail because they read like ads, and the journalists delete them in seconds. But today I'm joined by Mickie Kennedy, founder of eReleases, a press release service built for small businesses and startups who want coverage without huge agency retainers. We're going to talk about what makes a press release newsworthy and how PR newswire distribution actually works and how to create incredible angles even when you think you have none. And then how to turn that earned media into website traffic that people trust you and creates new patients for your practice. Welcome to Season 3 of For the Love of Chiropractic. Season 1 has 60 episodes of practice management tips to help you build the best practice possible. Season 2, 3 keys of my success, 50 interviews with the most successful chiropractors from around the world. Season 3, resources for your success. So let's listen up and learn how to build a great business. So I had the opportunity to catch up with Mickie Kennedy by phone. Mickie, are you there?
I am.
I am so glad you're able to make the time to spend a few minutes with us today and really start to dig into press releases and how they work, and more importantly, why they don't work. But before we start digging into that, I know you told me before we started recording. Tell me again, how long have you been working in PR and press releases?
So I started in PR in the mid-1990s, and I started eReleases in October of 1998. So I've run the company for, it'll be 28 years this year.
And your company puts out approximately, or helps to put out approximately, how many press releases a year?
We do a little over 10,000 press releases a year, so we get to see a lot of press releases that work, and unfortunately a lot more that don't work. And so my reason for being here today is to sort of educate people a little bit about the types of press releases they should be doing and what press releases they should be avoiding.
So, okay, let's start digging right in. So in round numbers, what % of press releases don't work?
I would say 97% of press releases, and these include the releases that people spent $2,000 to go out nationally over a service like Business Wire or PR Newswire. Through us, it's a little bit cheaper. The caveat is that, we work with people that PR Newswire's sales team isn't interested in working with. Our clients are mostly entrepreneurs, small business owners, individuals, authors, people like that. Their budget is probably closer to max $2,000 or $3,000 a year, where the salespeople at PR Newswire are looking for people to have a minimum spend of $20,000 to $30,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So we're all chiropractors, so we're small business owners. A lot of us have one office in our community. Some of us have multiple offices, across multiple communities. So let's really start to dig in. So you say 97% of these ads don't work. So should people be using AI to write their ads, or give me some idea of where to begin?
So AI is good at writing. It is terrible at choosing what to write about. So AI has been trained on the whole volume of press releases that are out there, and for that reason, it's going to suggest press releases that probably will not generate earned media. The reality is 97% of press releases that get issued, whether it's on the wire or not, do not generate earned media. And my experience with a lot of people is, hey, I tried this press release, we had something important going on, and nothing happened. So my belief is PR doesn't work. And the truth is PR works very well, but a lot of people approach it with a very selfish goal in mind. It's like, hey, we have something important to us, and we sent it out to the media, and the media didn't seem to care. Well, my thing is, what could you have done to make the media care? At the end of the day, a journalist is a gatekeeper. They're deciding what content is worthy of sharing with their audience. Is it educational enough or entertaining enough? Is there a story there? Journalists like to write a story arc, even if it's a very small article. And a lot of times when it's like you have a new product launch or a new service launch, or you're, just started business in the area, that's important to you, but how can you make it important to the actual media and journalists? A lot of times that is, sharing a case study, or, some individuals perhaps that you've helped. It's like, hey, I had someone who couldn't walk without a cane, and after treatment they are able to walk fine without one, and they're getting better and stronger. That sort of better showcases to the media the outcome. And so, a lot of times you may have to take a back seat in what you're releasing, but it's the perfect way to show your results and how you work. Other things to keep in mind is, the types of press releases other people in your industry may be doing are probably among those 97% that don't work. A lot of people do these new hire press releases because they see someone else in another town did one and they feel that's what they should do. And I'm telling you that very rarely does the media care about a new hire unless it's like an industry veteran or a new executive or something like that. So, focus your types of press releases that you do that are sort of meaningful, or how could you make them meaningful? And, when you're looking for media, a lot of chiropractors, I'm sure, are looking for local media. And so, do a good assessment of who in your area could write about you. It's probably less than 10 people. And that's a Rolodex that you could build and, network with and send them ideas, probably maybe on a quarterly basis. And, figure out who at the newspaper would cover a local business like yours and get their information, ask for their email address. These aren't celebrities. They will give you their email address. Just say, I wanted to use this because I wanted to pitch a story. Radio and TV, figure out who covers small businesses in your area. I've seen chiropractors, snapping necks and doing all kinds of cool stuff on my local TV. And it's sort of like usually annual wellness segments that they do, where they'll walk through lots of different things, including dental health, but they'll often bring in chiropractors, and it looks good on TV. So, you could talk to your local market, and if they don't have something like that, try to get them to do something like that. And talk about what you could do and what you'd be willing to talk about on the air, and bring a table in and sort of show them what it could look like, or have some images or video of what or photos of what it would look like in your office, and that way they'd give them a good visual representation of how this would play on TV. And if you're lucky enough to have like a business magazine or newspaper in your area, find out who, works there and would cover your industry. And then as you get these email addresses, you just pitch them. And for TV and radio, you're probably looking for the producer or booker of that particular segment. It may not be the same producer or booker of the entire show, but it could be. And, just ask around who you would sort of pitch an idea to, and just reach out to them. You may not hear a response, because it just means they weren't interested at that time, but there's no reason you can't reach out to them on a regular basis. I like at least quarterly. If you can do it more frequently and you have a message to send at the time, feel free to do it as often as you have meaningful messages and ideas. In the Baltimore area, we have Baltimore Magazine, little higher end consumer magazine. Is there something that you could sort of put together that would, perhaps attract the attention of a high-end magazine, for people that might be, growing older gracefully, and some tips about chiropractic health, and maybe suggest a tune-up at age 40, or an evaluation or something like that. There's all different types of things. There's people doing a lot of yard work and, addressing injuries and things like that people should watch out for, in the summer seasons. I've also had a lot of people do really well with like community papers, the free ones that you see that they're often given away. A lot of them are so focused on ads that they start to go to print and realize they don't have content. And so I've had success with a lot of smaller local practitioners, everything from dentists to wedding planners to florists and chiropractors, where you suggest a monthly column. And you're providing them content. At the end of it, you want to make sure you have a sentence or two about you and your practice. And that's a great way to sort of just be on people's radar on a regular basis. And then all of a sudden they get a twitch in their back, or they've been dealing with something like migraines, and they're just like, hey, maybe I should consider something like this. And again, it's just putting together a few hundred words every month about topics, that might be seasonal, or just, just brainstorm things out there. Again, you can lean on AI a little bit if you're not a great writer to sort of help you through this, but you want it to sort of be just good general content, wellness content, things to watch and avoid. A lot of people don't even know, how to treat a sprain. So, getting very granular about things to watch out for and things along those lines can do well. And they're going to probably want you to do a weekly column. And that's one thing I tell people is, they want free content every week, but just hold tight that you're only going to commit to a monthly column. And, it's one of those things where people say with ads, they have to see you 8 or 9 times. Well, it's great with a column because they'll see you 8, 9, 10. They'll see you monthly. And then when they have a need, you're going to come top of mind as to who they should reach out to get some assistance and aid. And I think that that's something that, again, doesn't take a lot of work. You can lean on AI, and it's just a matter of putting some groundwork in there. And these community papers, you would be surprised how effective they can be. And the authority of a column greatly exceeds an ad. And, I do have had some people who said, I was really, my arm twisted to do an ad as well. And as long as it's affordable, I don't have a problem with it. But I try to keep things clean where I want them to do a column. I don't want to do a paid ad. I'll consider it down the road, perhaps. But I think it's just one of those things that's very effective, because when people see an ad, they don't really connect with it the way they do with content. And when someone writes about you, or you're writing from a place of authority, it's a great way to elevate yourself and get sort of some of that thought leadership where people really pay attention to you and, want to do business with you.
So I have to tell you, you have totally turned around my thinking just in the first few minutes that you've been talking. When I first sat down to work on this episode with you, and so it was all about press releases, I'm thinking exactly, new hires. Oh, we just hired this person. We just hired this doctor. And, for the decades that I've been in practice, when we would hire a new doctor, we'd send out a press release, and sometimes a local paper would pick it up. Dr. So-and-so is now working with Freeman Chiropractic. Okay, it was nice. But what you just said makes so much sense, and it's 180 degrees from what I had been thinking, which is, these journalists are looking for content. They need to fill their papers with stories and information. So to be able to provide them with a story of, hey, yes, we treat people who have disc issues. In fact, here's a story focusing on Pete, who was a golfer. He couldn't golf. He blew out a disc, and we did A, B, C, and D, and now Pete is doing D, E, and F, and back on the course. It's a heartwarming story. It shows success. It shows you're the expert, and you're not even really talking about your chiropractic practice. You're talking about here's information for you.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned that AI knows how to write, but it doesn't really know what to write, and that so many people see what someone else did, so they just try and copy that. But and that kind of stuff rarely gets picked up. Tell me a little bit more about. You had mentioned again before we had started recording about how to write quotes that journalists really want to see, and things that'll spark their interest.
Right. So many times we get press releases where the quote is just so soft and it just looks like it was written by committee. It's not saying anything with any strong conviction, and it's safe. And the problem is, if a journalist removes the quote and just paraphrases what you say, what's stopping the managing editor from just cutting you out of the article altogether? And I've had that happen before, where someone talks about a subject, they bring it up in a press release, and then they find themselves removed from it. And often, if you have a strong quote, you will remain in the article because they want that strong quote to remain, and the managing editor might even put a check, or a star next to that saying "great quote." I don't know who the heck this company is, but wow, that was a great quote. And when you say what's a great quote, you don't have to be a wordsmith, you don't have to be Shakespeare and say something that's just beautiful, but it helps if you can. But I guess absent that, active verbs, saying something that is so condensed and strong and tersely written and tight that if a journalist did paraphrase it and you had read the previous version, you'd say, "Oh, I like the previous version a lot better. It just read stronger." Yeah, and so that's sort of my test. And I find AI is not good at writing strong quotes. I find, headlines and quotes are probably the most important part of a press release. So I would, often sort of punch it up, especially the quote. You want to make sure that if a journalist does decide to take you out of an article and remove the quote, that, it comes at a cost, that, what they wrote isn't going to be as strong. And for that reason, very few people ever remove a really strong person's quote from an article. And it's the one way to preserve that you will remain in that article is having that strong quote. And so it is something that you can play around with AI, but I would go in and try to say, is there something punchier I could say, or a stronger way to say it, or really something with great conviction. I find that often having a contrarian viewpoint sort of guarantees that your quote will remain, because the journalist isn't going to paraphrase that. If they're saying something that's sort of counter to everybody's understanding, they've got to attribute it to someone. So if you have a contrarian viewpoint on a subject, it's a great way to sort of stand out with the media. So maybe everybody sort of believes that, this is what you do, or these are the times that you go to a chiropractor, and you're like, well, no, I believe that these are also the times that you go to a chiropractor. And you're like, really? You go to a chiropractor for that? And why? And it gets people intrigued and interested. But you're definitely going to have that quote remain because you're saying something that's sort of counter to everybody else. And a journalist wouldn't feel comfortable paraphrasing it in their own words and speaking on behalf of the article with such a viewpoint.
Wow, that makes sense. So could you give an example of a flat quote? I'm jumping back 2 steps, I know. Could you give an example of a flat quote, and then here's a quote, saying the same information but punched up?
I can certainly try here. Let me just see what I've got. Let's see. So let's say you'd have something where maybe you've partnered with a local hospital or medical community to provide chiropractic benefits to the community, and the hospital comes down with a press release and says, we believe that this partnership will give our patients access to more modes of treatment that they'll be able to utilize in the future. It's like, it's very safe. It's not amazing or stand out or anything.
Right. It couldn't be any more vanilla.
Correct. And so, something with more conviction might be, we recognize that chiropractic treatment picks up where traditional media falls short. And it's like, whoa, that's got some bravado to it. Yes. And so something like that, and, just something that's stronger, you don't want to make anybody mad, but you want to say something that with a little bit more conviction, and,
right.
you know it's a good quote when both sides are a little uncomfortable. And
Ooh, I like that. I like that a
yeah,
lot.
right.
All right. And thank you for that. So, now I want to jump forward a little bit. So, what are your opinions about, being top of the SEO game, versus, credibility and backlinks, and what do you think about all that?
So I have always believed that focusing on SEO is a fool's errand. You know, if you get picked up by the media, you get SEO benefits from it. Even if you get picked up by the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, which do not link to your website will get SEO benefit. Google has a patent on that where they give an implied link in cases where they can contextually tell that these authoritative media sites are talking about you. And so, and I feel like that should be organic. It's not manipulative. There's no link. So it's not like you get to put anchor tags and things like that in it. You can put that in a press release, but, at the end of the day, the press release isn't going to really generate any SEO benefit. People have said for 20 years, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I'm just like, even if it does, it's ephemeral and goes away. You want to get the actual articles that talk about you. And basically, a lot of industry media feels comfortable talking about you and linking to you, especially if they're linking to a resource or something that's important, like maybe you did a survey or maybe you have some results that you won't have on your website, like a table or something that's interesting. Is a great way to get some of those industry publications and blogs to link to you. I always tell people, doing surveys are a very effective way to get the media interested in you because you're producing your own data. And so it might be like, doing a survey in your community and getting people's perception of what do they feel about chiropractic treatment, or, have they ever considered alternative treatments, or, any types of things that would be tangentially related to chiropractic that you feel would be useful. And, there's also, things around sports medicine and things along those lines that you could sort of tap into, especially if you have like a college or something like that in your area, and just get survey. You don't need thousands of results. Generally, if you have 100 results or more, the media is completely fine with you having some data points and places to go from there. I think that, just sort of being on top of things in your community and sharing those is a great way to sort of attract attention and be able to, get some media interest in you. And it's not always easy, but it's one of those things that as you develop these relationships and you make these little inroads, it just gets easier over time. And I had a lot of people who did the local media outreach where they were doing that religiously every quarter or every other month, reaching out to their local media. And what they found is after a couple of years, they may have not had but 2 or 3 articles or segments that resulted from 2 or 3 years of pitching, but it doesn't take much time. You can use the same pitch for the most part for all the media. But what happens is after 2 or 3 years of constant contact, they start reaching out to you. Hey, I am working on a story about office ergonomics, and I would love to get your perspective on it as a chiropractor. And when those things come in, you spend some time, think about the topic, have some ready-made quotes. And I've already said quotes are a great way to ensure that they choose you, because they're like, wow, this person really said something that was like a powerful. And so make sure you get back to them with some amazing quotes. A lot of times I'll say, I'll talk to them on the phone and I'll say, yeah, I've actually wrote a couple of quotes here. I'd love to read them to you or send them along to you. And like, wow, those are good. And so, don't just pick up the phone and talk off the cuff. Make sure you've done a little preparation, or,
Sure.
If you're trying to get more research about what they're looking for, you can say, hey, I'd love to put together a couple of quotes around this now that I've talked to you, and send those along and have you take a look. And so those are great things to do. And when someone has done local media outreach successfully, they will find after a few years that instead of them reaching out to the media, it's the media now reaching out to them. And that's how you know the work has paid off, because you are now a resource that the media knows that they can go to when they're under a deadline and they want someone who's responsive and are going to produce a media-ready quote or a sound bite for them to use.
I love that. So unfortunately, our time is beginning to run out. I have one final question. Well, that's not true. I have two final questions for you. So the first final question is, can you comment on how these PR campaigns can shorten what's in business called the sales cycle?
Yes. So as you get media attention, and whether it's a column or you're getting articles written about you, or you're getting on the news or radio, it's just going to be easier to convert your leads. And so if you have your own lead funnel that you're reaching out to, now you take these media mentions and you share it with them. If you were converting, say, 20% of these leads over time, you'll find that putting this earned media in front of them is going to make it so that you're now converting maybe 35% of those. And also, there are people that will just drift off. We call that churn. And they just, for whatever reason, they move on to someone else or something else. And what they do is they see you getting this authority in the community, and they're going to be like, why would I switch now? Why would I look for someone else? Or why would I, try another method? This person, is obviously respected and recognized for their craft. Why would I switch? And so it's a great way to retain more of your customer base and reduce the people who sort of fall off. And it's also a great way to sort of, convert and bring in more people, and even take the people that are in your lead pipeline and convert them at a higher rate.
Sure. That makes so much sense. So my final question is, if someone wants to get in touch with you for further guidance, they actually want to hire your company, what does that look like, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So our website is ereleases.com. Feel free to engage with us there with chat or phone call during business hours, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time. As well as I think we have email as well as the chat. And on our lower right of our website, we have all of our social media channels, including my direct LinkedIn. We don't have any salespeople, so the only people you'll be talking to at eReleases are editors, and we walk people through how to work with us all the time and how to get started. I do have a free masterclass that goes through the strategic types of press releases, the 3% that do get picked up, and it's not a big daunting course. I've winnowed it down to like an hour of video plus a little accompanying materials. And if you go through that, I think anybody would be able to walk away with a dozen strategic ideas for press releases they could do for their business. And I think it's a great place for anybody to start. And it's at ereleases.com/plan, PLAN. And again, completely free. And we're here to help people and get them to consider PR. And, press release should never be measured by a single press release. It's generally a PR campaign of 6 to 8 releases over a period of time. And for a chiropractor or a very small business, it might take you a year and a half to go through 6 to 8 press releases. But if you're doing meaningful strategic press releases, out of those 6 to 8, you should have at least 2 or 3 of them that really generate real earned media for you. And again, you can do all this, a whole PR campaign of 6 to 8 releases for well under $3,000 with a service like ours.
Right. And that makes total sense because, as a chiropractor, you're in your office, you're in the community, you're part of the community. You're not looking for, that one next new patient. You want to be part of the community and a resource for the community. You're the go-to doc. That's where I need to go.
Yeah.
So, well, Mickie, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, making the time. This has been absolutely fantastic. Mickie Kennedy of ePress Releases, thank you so much for taking the time to do this conversation with me today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, Be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.